You might have heard me tell you before that abortion is linked to breast cancer increase among women, mental health issues, preterm delivery. I made some of these claims before. We had a conversation with someone a long time ago, our good friend, Dr. Brent Bowles, on this show. But it's been a long time. And I never put together all of the information in a way to equip you to be a pro-life ninja, to defend the unborn, and to bring the truth about the horrors of abortion to men and women in your life who support this heinous anti-human agenda of death. What if we could make this information go viral? That by getting an abortion, young women are skyrocketing their chances of breast cancer, mental health, infertility, and preterm delivery of babies in future pregnancies for kids that they don't kill. I joined my friend Alex Clark on her show recently to discuss all of this information and data, to give all the facts and data. And we're going to link it all in the show notes here as well. Alex Clark is a real firebrand in the conservative movement, very bold, and I was grateful to join her show to dive deep into all of the data that's been hidden from us from the abortion industry by big pharma, by big government, by big medicine, by FDA, CDC, World Health Organization, all of these groups who should be providing this information to Americans, but are memory holing it all. Why? Because even pro-choice men and women would run from the abortion industry like nothing you've ever seen before if they were to learn this information. Okay, this is a fact-driven, punch you upside the head kind of episode. And it was a really fun, powerful, fast-paced conversation we had with my friend Alex Clark. We're bringing this full episode to you today on the Seth Gruber Show. We will link the data, facts, and notes so that you don't have to take notes. But buckle up. This is an episode you're going to want to send to everyone you know. And I guarantee you ain't ever heard all of this stuff put together before. We have been being lied to for a very long time. Welcome to the Seth Gruber Show.
Not everyone may be pro-life. Some may be pro-choice. Others listening just may not even think about it. Maybe it's like, I don't even just get into that. I've never thought about it. You know, there's even a lot of conservatives lately, which we were talking about off air, that have kind of adopted some pro-choice talking points, surprisingly. Yeah. How would you describe what the true mission is behind the pro-life movement? And are you pro-life because you hate women having options?
Welcome to Culture Apothecary with Alex Clark. Well, I mean, first of all, you don't know whether I'm a woman or not. I might have a uterus. It's a very dangerous thing for you to assume in the age of Bruce Jenner, Alex. Okay, listen. I, too, am a uterus holder. And so I can identify with women living under the thumb of the Trumpian patriarchy by not having the right to choose, because I learned from the Gnostics behind the weird sexual revolutionary progressive culture of death that we're living through today, that just because you're born with male chromosomes doesn't mean you can't be a woman. And so apparently I can liberate Sally from the biological prison of Seth. And just as I changed my pronouns on my driver's license, I've also now learned how to liberate my vaccine identity from the blob of my unjabbed self, because biology provides no clues to our real identity. That's why a man can be a woman now. And I guess men have a right to abortion too. That's what the left is telling me. But all my point is this is all stupid. This is all absolutely insane. No, I'm not pro-life because I hate women. I'm actually very grateful that my mother didn't abort me or kill me in the name of radical feminism. I'm pretty grateful that I had a right to life and I'm in this world. Abortion is wrong because I was once a fetus, Alex. That's actually why abortion is wrong. Abortion is not a woman's issue. It's a human issue. Human life begins at the moment of conception. Okay, every secular bioethicist
Non-Christian, pagan scientists, bioethicists. Did you know this? The vast majority of them admit that life begins at conception.
I did not.
Human life begins at conception, okay? Including Peter Singer in Australia, who's this like old fart in his 90s now. He's like a total communist. The reason Peter Singer's famous, by the way, is he defends abortion not just through point of birth, but up to 1 year old after birth, because he says pro-lifers are right. The cognitive abilities that Peter Singer says grant personhood, which are not present allegedly in the third trimester child, are also not present in the child after birth and up to 9 months after birth.
Well, you know, he's staying consistent, so I appreciate that.
That's right. So rather than saying, oh gosh, I'm pro-choice, but I really don't want to kill babies after birth, he goes, no, hey, pro-choicers, you need to shut up and be consistent. The pro-lifers are right that nothing meaningful changed from third trimester baby. And then the fetus fairy, you know, it's the fetus fairy, right? Sprinkled magical personhood conferring fairy dust on the child as it exited the birth canal. No, of course not. There's no such thing as a magical birth canal. So Peter Singer says pro-lifers are right. There's actually no value-giving difference between the third trimester baby right before birth and the infant right after. So rather than saying we should protect both, Peter Singer says we should kill both, and both are disqualified from the community of persons. Okay, so that is a more common belief now than many realize on the pro-choice side of the aisle. So why is all of this significant? That if you don't grant and recognize the right to life of human beings because they're human beings, then where do those rights come from? You see? If our right to life comes from our cognitive abilities, our awareness, our consciousness, our self-awareness, then if born people lack some of those same capacities, then they too would be less of a person than those with a higher capacity of those value-giving, personhood-conferring functions. So at a high level, I know that was probably higher than you're wanting to go. That's why this issue is so important. That's why it's not a woman's issue. It's a human issue. And if we don't get the right to life right, we won't get any other rights right. Right? And that's why our founders had an order of rights in our founding documents. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are the right to life.
But I thought that the pro-choice side says that there is a constitutional right to abortion.
Oh, well, yeah, that's the argument. So here's the thing, the divide on the abortion side of the aisle, Alex, that the left can't figure out. They can't figure out where the right to abortion comes from. To your point. So let's ask someone. I by the way, I've done this on college campuses with Turning Point events or Young America's Foundation college events that I speak at. And I love asking, you know, purple-haired male and female feminist abortion advocates who majored in lesbian dance theory, where does the right to abortion come from? And they immediately, they're like, listen, if abortion is a positive right, a legal right, okay, then the abortion advocate cannot really complain if the state does not permit her an abortion, because the same government that can grant rights can take them away. However, if abortion is a natural right, stay with me, culture apothecary, you ready? Okay, you're about to get your face ripped off, right? Get ready to get Holy Spirit pilled. If abortion is a natural right, a right that springs from our nature as human beings, so it's a human right, right? That's what they say. Abortion is a human right. What they're saying is it's a natural right. It's not a legal right. It's a right that we have in virtue of being human. Then the abortion advocate had that right from the moment she began to exist, the moment of conception. So we are left with an amusing paradox. According to the logic of abortion advocates, unborn women do not have a right to life, but they do have a right to an abortion.
Mm. So good. Look at that. It's like, good grief.
If you have a right to an abortion because it's a human right, then you had that right from the moment you became human, the moment of conception. So now we're left with saying that unborn fetuses who are female have a right to abortion, but they don't have a right to life, which is ludicrous.
The math never maths. The math never maths on that side of the aisle.
By the way, it's not a constitutional right, Alex, because our founding documents say no person should be denied of the right to life. And property without due process of law. So the federal protections for the unborn child are already in our founding documents. Unfortunately, we just don't have a culture that respects the right to life and the dignity of babies and children that would allow that amendment to actually be applied to unborn babies. So we have probably a long and bloody road ahead of us to protecting the unborn. But here's why this issue is so important, because I know you said you have maybe some listeners who are pro-choice. Listen, a conservative movement that does not prioritize the total and complete abolition of abortion as its highest political priority will one day wake up and find that there is nothing left to conserve. If it's true that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, then it's also true that the hand that wrecks the cradle ruins the world.
I think when people debate abortion, it almost always revolves around the baby. And is it a baby? When does it have viability? Should that even matter? That abortion is safer for a mother than childbirth. That's something that people say. But you say that you can prove without a doubt that abortion has absolutely wrecked women's health. So you have my attention.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're about to get red pilled so hard right now on the Culture Apothecary. There have been so many lies behind this, Alex, for decades and decades and decades before you or I were born. Okay. I was born in 1991. So I just turned 33. They were spreading these lies in the 70s and 80s that there is no form of negative health outcomes for you, woman, in the future if you've had an abortion. Super safe. In fact, there's a super popular statistic. I don't know if we have time to get into this right now, but there's a very popular claim on the left and in the abortion industry, Alex, and they say, actually, if you follow the science, childbirth is 4 times more dangerous than abortion. I can prove that abortion has a massive negative health outcome on mental health in the future, preterm delivery. Like if you have an abortion, you're way more likely to deliver prematurely born babies in future pregnancies. And wait for it, breast cancer, which that one will get fact checked. Washington Post 10 Pinocchios like crazy. Is this going on YouTube? Because you're gonna get like massive. Yeah,
it was. Like, maybe we
warning,
can't now.
Fact check. Okay.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
By the way, that's actually true anytime you talk about abortion. Like period, like you just bring it up. And my podcast talks mostly about abortion. It talks about the whole culture of death and how we got here. So it's broader than that at the Seth Gruber Show. But I get that thing on YouTube basically on every single episode. But yeah, there's this claim and they say, well, actually, it's more dangerous for you to give birth, Mom, than for us to stick forceps up your vaginal canal and start ripping the limbs off your child.
Giving birth is something that we were all literally designed by God to be able to do.
Yeah, well, Alex, that's because you're a bigot and don't follow the science.
I guess so.
That's a super popular claim, and you even know it. And you're very broad in your research on a lot of these health things, like in general in the country. The reason that there's no way for the abortion industry or the left to be able to say that it is more dangerous for you to give birth naturally, that's more dangerous than killing your baby, is because they don't have the statistical basis to stand on to make that claim. And here's what I mean by that. The Abortion Adverse Event Reports, AER, Abortion Adverse Event Reports, abortion clinics are required by the FDA to report adverse events, complications for the mom that result from the abortion. Most adverse events or complications following an abortion that a mom goes through, that mom does not go back to the abortionist.
Yeah, it's happening at home.
Yeah, at home, or she goes to her primary care physician. We know this from the data. So if most women who have abortion complications don't go to the only individual that's mandated by law to report those complications, the abortionist. Ever heard the phrase conflict of interest, guys? But she's going to her primary care physician who is not required to report abortion complications, or what often actually ends up happening, Alex, is a lot of those moms who have abortion complications, they don't want to tell their primary care physician that the reason she's having ABCD issues is because she had an abortion a few weeks ago or a few months ago. So sometimes the primary care physician doesn't even know that there was an abortion in the past. So none of those things, vast majority of those things, are not even getting reported to the abortion reporting institutions. And so the abortion industry is able to claim without any statistical foundation that it is more dangerous for you to give birth than to have an abortion. But thanks to socialized medicine in Finland, which I'm a huge enemy of, I think socialized medicine is a horrible idea, but the left loves it, right?
They love it.
And guess what socialized medicine gives you, Alex? Good data, because the government is running the healthcare industry. So it's socialism. It's horrible, but it gives you good data. In Finland, they found in their data sets from women who have abortion that actually abortion is 4 times more dangerous than giving birth.
And do they say why?
Well, here, let me think. It's unnatural to shove forceps up your vaginal canal or take a abortion pill, which I can actually kind of trace the role of the Nazis in the abortion pill. We can talk about that if you want to, which cuts off the hormone progesterone. So all nutrients to the child is cut off. The baby starves to death. And then the second regimen of the abortion pill forces your uterus to have contractions. Finland data also shows that the abortion pill, RU486 medication abortion, which was 63% of the abortions in 2023, 63% was not like a clinic or surgery, it was a pill. Finland data shows that the abortion pill is 4 times more dangerous than surgical abortions.
I did not know that statistic.
So the abortion industry's push right now, Alex,
Is the pill.
to push the abortion pill.
Yeah.
And they're shipping it into like more red states.
Yep.
Where abortion is either banned or like almost banned. They're shipping it illegally into states that have banned abortion, because how are you supposed to, like, I guess you'd have to go into the mail. Actually, we'd have to find an attorney general in a conservative state who would go after the providers shipping illegal abortion pills into their state. So this is the big push now, because in states that started banning abortion, brick and mortar abortion clinics started disappearing. So the abortion industry ramped up the abortion pill. And now it went from like 30-something% of the nation's abortions a few years ago to 63% of the nation's abortions last year through the abortion pill. And in 2018, Cecile Richards was president of Planned Parenthood at that time. She wrote an article in the Los Angeles Times in an opinion editorial and told America that the medication abortion pill is safer than Tylenol.
Stop. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I have the article in the LA op-ed by the president of Planned Parenthood from 2018. Hey, Mom, you're more likely to die from taking Tylenol than from taking our abortion pill. Now go buy our cheap to manufacture, sell at high margin abortion pill that we can ship into your state illegally. So that, anyways, we haven't even gotten into the abortion complications risk on women's health, but that's some of the background around how they say it's safer to kill your baby.
But first, we'd like to thank our sponsor of the Seth Gruber Show, Every Life Diaper Company, our sole sponsor, because we love them so much. I just want you to imagine if, like, every pro-life family, every pro-life parent who's having kids, if all of us started getting our diapers only from pro-life companies, our baby things from only pro-life businesses. That's how we win the culture war. That's one of the biggest strategies in the way that we win the culture war, by the way, okay? We have to defund wokeness, defund woke capitalism, and that means not shopping with people who hate you and your values. Because every major diaper company in America is pro-abortion, we want you to go to everylife.com and get your baby diapers, your wipes, your baby shampoos and soaps from a pro-life, pro-family, pro-America company. I know the founders. My wife and I are good friends with them. We love them. They're people of integrity. They're people of faith. And we use it. We use everylife.com for our diapers and our wipes. Go to everylife.com. Use promo code Seth10. That's Seth10 for 10% off your first order. And let them know that we sent you. Okay, that's important because that's how they support the Seth Gruber Show. And that's how you support the White Rose Resistance. You're just supporting everyone. Go to everylife.com, promo code Seth10, and you can do a subscription. So it just ships to your house. So we just get the diapers and wipes, and it's timed perfectly right before we run out of them. And we don't have to go to the store to get diapers and wipes. Everylife.com, promo code Seth10. Thank you, Every Life, for being a sponsor of the Seth Gruber Show.
I'm fascinated by this. If you've had an abortion, you're more likely to have a baby preterm later.
Yeah, well, let's start with mental health.
Okay.
That one's quite shocking. And also the culture's obsession with, like, mental health.
Right.
Listen, I'm not
Well,
saying
people say it's
that
like
mental health is a bad thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't care about your mental health, but you know the culture's obsession
well, yeah,
with
and
mental health.
we're told that, going to get an abortion, it's just like, going to the ATM, going through the Starbucks drive-through. It's quick, it's easy, you get it done, like you never think about it again.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then you see these people online that are adamant. They're like, well, I had an abortion and, I've never regretted it. My life is so much better. So, but then you have the pro-life people saying like, no, there's a lot of mental anguish. So
let's get into it. You guys ready? You about to get red pilled? This culture apothecary. I love it. I love this show. We're about to rip your face off. Much of what is spouted, Alex, regarding the alleged safety of abortion for women comes from a book by the National Academy of Sciences called The Safety and Quality of Abortion Care in the United States. Before I get into that, I just want to say I don't believe abortion's wrong because it harms women. I believe abortion's wrong because it kills babies, and those babies have a right to life. However, when you kill your baby because it's so unnatural, and that's not how God created you. He did not create your body to have forceps shoved up it and have your child ripped out. He created your body to protect and house that child. Check out this. The uterus is the only organ in a woman's body that's not designed for her. The uterus is the only organ in a woman's body that is not there for her life, her sustenance, her well-being. It's the only organ in a woman's body that's there for another human being.
that's exactly right.
So the baby has a right to your body, mother, because the uterus is created for your baby and not for you. So when people say, I have my body, my choice, my right, the child doesn't have a right to my body. Actually, the child does have a right to your body because the uterus is there for the child, okay? So abortion's wrong because it kills babies, because babies are humans. Human beings begin at the moment of conception, and our rights do not come from our cognitive abilities, our desires, but from our humanity, which began at the moment of conception. However, I think it's important to have a conversation about abortion's negative health impacts on women, because the culture, the abortion industry, the left, the activist media, I call them journalistic prostitutes for the culture of death.
Wow.
They have been lying about this for decades, Alex. But remember, what does the abortion industry say? We exist to provide health care to women. Okay, well, if you love women so much and you're here to provide health care to women, I'm sure that you would tell them all of the risks that could be entailed, even if there's a slightly statistical significant chance that that abortion might result in negative health outcomes in the future. I'm sure you would say all of that, right, abortion industry? Because you love women. Bullcrap. Horse manure. No, they don't, because they make a ton of money on killing babies. So those who murder the unborn cannot be trusted to govern the born. And those who murder the unborn will one day murder us too, the longer we tolerate this evil in our country. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Is that the biggest moneymaker for Planned Parenthood?
Well, not anymore.
It's
Guess
the
what?
hormones?
It's trans drugs for teens is Planned Parenthood's fastest growing revenue stream. So this book by the National Academy of Sciences, it's called The Safety and Quality of Abortion Care in the United States. I'm telling you, I've done my research. This is the book, Alex, that if you ever hear the left and the culture and the activist media say, abortion's not dangerous to women, nothing negative will ever happen to you in the future, ever, 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 ever. Follow the science, trademark over the E, Fauci approved, stamped. This is the one book that they will cite to make these claims. The National Academy of Sciences, 20% of the authors at the National Academy of Sciences have financial ties to the industries or topics that they're researching.
Of course, that's how it is.
But it gets worse than that, Alex. Every single freaking name that participated in writing the safety and quality of abortion care in the United States has financial ties to the abortion industry or is an abortion trainer. Every single name that contributed to the creation of the book, The Safety and Quality of Abortion Care in the United States, put together by the National Academy of Sciences, the book that if you ever hear the left, the culture, the activist media, or our universities say abortion will not negatively impact your health outcomes in the future, Mom.
If the pro-life side, that was our biggest, piece of evidence that we wielded over the pro-choicers, that we have this book and these scientists say this, but all of them were, funded by pro-life, activist groups or something, they would be like, that doesn't count. You can't use that.
Oh, of course. That's what they say. Pro-life. If you ever cite a pro-lifer or academic on your side of the aisle, then the left goes like, confirmation bias, you can't do it. But when they do it, it's just science.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So that would never fly. So that right there, okay, well, that's super helpful to know when you're debating abortion.
Yeah. So, okay, how many pages did this very large book, The Safety and Quality of Abortion Care in the United States, give to examining if there's a relationship between abortion and mental health? 4 pages. How many pages did they give to examining abortion's impact on preterm labor and subsequent pregnancies? 3 pages. How many pages did they give on examining abortion's relationship to breast cancer? 1.5 pages. And how many pages did they give to examining abortion's impact on death, maternal death in women? 1/2 page. So now we've set the stage. Here's what we know about abortion and its impact on mental health. Between 1993 and 2018, there were 75 peer-reviewed research studies that examined, and that's the left loves that, peer-reviewed, the relationship between abortion and mental health. 75. 50 of the 75 studies showed a positive association between having had an abortion and mental health issues in the future. 50 of the 75. How many of those studies did the National Academy of Sciences, in their book, The Safety and Quality of Abortion Care in the United States, look at when they argued that there is no evidence that abortion leads to mental health? 7. They looked at 7 of the 75 studies. All 7 came from the other 25.
Stop.
Of the 75. So remember, 75 studies, 50, so 2/3 said yes, abortion impacts mental health in the future. 25 didn't. The National Academy of Sciences took all 7 that they looked at in their book from the 25, which would have been the minority of the ones that said there was no mental health. 5 of the 7 came from the turnaway cohort. The turnaway cohort, Alex, was a study that was set up with the premise that women who seek abortion but are turned away or fail to secure the abortion that they wanted do worse economically, emotionally, and psychologically.
Like keeping the kid and raising the child. Do they
Not
do
killing,
worse?
not
Right.
killing baby Timmy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So women who are turned away or for some reason fail to secure the abortion they were trying to get, their lives suck. They do better. They do worse financially, emotionally, and psychologically than the women who got the child killing, who got the baby ripped out of their uterus, who got the abortion that they were seeking. The problem with the study is they determined how many people they needed to make the study successful. Of those that they approached and asked to participate in the turnaway cohort study, only 37% of those approached agreed to participate. And then during the course of the study, 44% of the 37% dropped out of the study. So they published their results with 17% of the total number of participants that they said they needed to make the study successful in the first place.
How is this allowed?
And how many of the studies were from the turnaway cohort? 5 of the total 7 that are in this book, The Safety and Quality of the Abortion Care in the United States, the primary source used to say abortion's super safe for women and nothing negative will ever happen to you.
This circus is why we're told it's totally, there's no impact on mental health.
Yeah. And then there was a super interesting unpublished result from the turnaway cohort, which I dug up, which is super interesting. They went to those women 5 years later, Alex, the women who wanted and tried to get an abortion, but they didn't. 95% of them said they were grateful that they didn't get the abortion that they were seeking, which I know is super shocking for y'all and the young women's listening to this who are into health and family and thriving, that when you don't kill Timmy in the womb and then he's 5 years old and you look at Timmy and you're like, I'm so glad I didn't slaughter you in the name of radical feminism. I know that'll shock you to find out that when you don't kill your kid 5 years later, you're grateful you didn't kill your kid. The turnaway cohort didn't publish that little result.
No, of course
that
not.
they found in their research as a part of the turnaway cohort.
Must have just, must have been forgotten.
Yeah, follow the science. I'd like to ban that phrase, follow the science, from American political discourse.
Yeah, let's ban it.
Priscilla Coleman has done the best research on this at the British Journal of Psychiatry, proving abortion's impact on mental health in the future, or high increase in the risks of mental health in the future. The abortion industry and the left attacked the British Journal of Psychiatry when they were going to publish her research because they didn't want this getting out. Thankfully, the British Journal of Psychiatry stood strong and they published the results of her study. She found that having had an abortion, just one abortion, increases your risk of mental health in the future by 81%. Okay. And what she did was she took a meta-analysis of the research. A meta-analysis is when you look at similar different studies looking at the same issue to increase the strength of the conclusion. Her meta-analysis, I believe, was 41 different studies. And so it really helps us get a sort of a grasp on the most, what the likelihood is that abortion increases your risk of mental health. And she cites 51 different references in her meta-analysis. So this is the best research we have that's available that looks at the relation between abortion and mental health in the future. And then she looked at the risk of abortion on depression and suicide. It's called the population attributable risk. What population attributable risk means, I know this is super statistical language. It's actually simple. It means how many women who have, let's say, depression, have a prior abortion in the past as their only risk factor.
Oh, that's interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what population attributable risk is. So it would be like saying, like, how many people with diabetes have high rates of sugar eating as the only risk factor that could have led to the diabetes. That's what that means. So her meta-analysis, okay, with 51 different references, found that the population attributable risk of abortion on depression is 9.9%, which means almost 10% of women who are struggling with depression in America have a past abortion as their only risk factor that could have led to that depression in the first place.
That's huge. That's huge.
Mental health. The left is obsessed with mental health.
That kind of makes sense, right?
How much are they hurting mental health?
Right, but 1 in 4 women on average have had an abortion, right? So that kind of makes sense that that would be that high.
And then she found that the population attributable risk of abortion on suicide is 34%.
Whoa.
So 34% of women who have killed themselves in America
have had an abortion,
have a past abortion as their only risk factor that could have suggested that she would have struggled with suicidality.
Nobody
in
is
the future.
talking about this.
No, of course not. No, of course not. That's why I'm the pro-life Rain Man weirdo.
I did say the Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk had a baby thing.
Oh my gosh.
That's you.
And then there's some good data from California. I love citing my once great golden state of communists to prove my own presuppositions whenever I can. So there's a data set of 200,000 California Medicaid patients. And here's what we found from that data set. 40% of women who have had an abortion will at some point in the future meet all of the criteria for the diagnosis of PTSD. 40% of women who have an early abortion will at some point in the future meet all of the criteria for the diagnosis of PTSD. And Alex, 60% of women who have had a late-term abortion will at some point in the future meet all of the criteria for the diagnosis of PTSD.
So explain that to me, because I was told by reputable people who may or may not be running for office that late-term abortions, there's not one that's ever happened in the United States.
It's fake news.
So what's the truth? Are late-term abortions happening or not? And is
I
there
don't know.
evidence?
Just go to Planned Parenthood's website or the Guttmacher Institute, which is Planned Parenthood's statistical research branch, which is named after Alan Guttmacher. Alan Guttmacher, who took over Planned Parenthood when Margaret Sanger died and became the president of Planned Parenthood. Alan Guttmacher, who was part of the Population Council and the population reduction movement. Alan Guttmacher, who was approached by a journalist on the day that Roe versus Wade was decided in 1973, and he was asked, Alan Guttmacher, how are you going to protect abortion rights in the future? How are you going to protect women's bodily autonomy rights from those conservatives who might take away Roe versus Wade? And he responded with 2 words, sex ed. And so that's how we sexually arouse children so that we can solve abortions in the future. So that's the namesake of the Guttmacher Institute today, Planned Parenthood Statistical Research Branch. It's so weird. I can go onto Planned Parenthood's research branch, Alex, and I can see the number of abortions that occurred in the third trimester every year since 1973. That's so shocking because I thought they didn't happen. Now, what the left will say, Alex, is they'll say, well, okay, sorry, I wasn't prepared for Alex Clark to go full data on me. And so, yes, I mean, they can happen, but they only happen when a failure to get that late trimester abortion will kill the mother. So they're only a life-saving procedure to save mom's life if the pregnancy continues, mom will die. Also fake news, okay? Abortion is never medically necessary to save mom's life.
Never.
Now I said never.
Never.
Never with zero qualifications.
Really?
I said this on stage with Charlie at a Freedom Night. That Instagram reel went semi-viral. Sure enough, fact check. And I had a whole article written up by, I forget what fact-checking left-wing agency, from that Instagram reel. And so the left has lied about this for years. Here's how it works. Now, obviously, people are going to say, Seth is not an OBGYN, so how can we trust him? Okay, whatever. Most people who say that abortion is necessary to save mom's life are also not doctors, so we're all in the same pool.
Your OBGYNs are also telling you to take hormonal birth control, even though,
yeah,
all of those side
you've
effects.
covered that really well. Yeah.
The OBGYNs, okay, but
That's
continue.
right. Well, ACOG, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, is super pro-abortion, but guess what? They used to be pro-life decades ago. I wonder what changed. So you see a lot of these, including the American Medical Association, used to be pro-life. They had as part of their commitment to protect preborn children.
Wow.
Now they're pro-abortion, right? So any institution, it's a good rule for conservatives, any institution that does not begin overtly conservative will always drift. Okay, every single time. So let's actually bring some reality to this. So you're pregnant, you're in the third trimester, and you have a very high risk danger to your body, to your health, to your life. If the pregnancy continues, you might die. This happens sometimes. Thankfully, 21st century medicine, America, guess what, Alex? We can almost always save the life of both mother and child, right? But there are some rare circumstances where if you allow the pregnancy to continue, mom could die. Guess what? If the pregnancy is what is harming or threatening mom's life, how can we end the pregnancy? Childbirth. Delivering the child would be a way to end pregnancy. Wow. That is safer for mom than performing an abortion. Is it safer to give birth like every woman has been doing forever? Or is it safer to shove forceps and a vacuum catheter tube up the vaginal canal, pierce the amniotic sac, suction it out, rip the limbs off of the child, hope you get all the pieces, because oftentimes they don't, and you have floating dead baby pieces in mom's uterus, which make her susceptible to sepsis, other forms of infection, and death. What do you think is safer for mom? Think for a second. Childbirth is always safer for mom than performing an abortion. So even in these rare cases where the pregnancy might take mom's life, abortion is not the way to save mom's life. It's actually more dangerous of a way to try to save mom's life. The safest way would be to deliver the child. And there has been whole kind of petitions signed by obstetricians, gynecologists, medical students, and scientists around the globe saying abortion is never medically necessary to save mom's life.
Okay, so we covered
Just
mental
abortion
health.
and mental health.
Okay, mental health, third trimester abortion. Does it happen? Late term abortion. What's next?
So obviously, third trimester abortion does happen because Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton allowed that. Okay, I know Kamala Harris said in the debate that it doesn't happen. She said that's a myth. It does happen. Okay, third trimester abortions do happen. You can go look at the statistics. Roe versus Wade, Doe versus Bolton, its companion case, 1973, abortion legal through all 9 months of pregnancy. People say that's false. What the law actually said is that a state cannot ban abortion before fetal viability, unless a failure to get a late trimester abortion endangers the mother's life or health. And guess how they defined health? So broadly, you could drive a Mack truck through it. In Doe versus Bolton, and people don't remember Doe versus Bolton, it went along with Roe v. Wade. They said that health could pertain to financial and emotional health.
Yeah, so it's anything. It's just for what? There's using the word health for any reason you want.
Guess who gets to decide whether the mother's definition of health is an adequate one?
The abortion doctor?
The abortionist.
Of course.
So here we are back at financial conflict of interest. Okay,
Yeah.
Now let's get into abortion's impact on preterm delivery in subsequent pregnancies. Meaning, if you kill your baby through an abortion, are you more likely to have premature deliveries of babies in the future? Yes. There have been 168 studies over the last several decades looking at the relationship between abortion and preterm delivery in subsequent pregnancies. And the vast majority of these 168 studies show a positive association between abortion and delivering premature babies in the future. Now, because we get accused of confirmation bias, I think it's important to say this. The American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists, it's called APLOG, cited and put together 47 of these 168 to try to get a handle on the data to see if this is a legitimate relationship between abortion and preterm delivery. The only reason I say that is because people are about to say, well, okay, it's all confirmation bias. They're going to say that it has no relationship. It's important to point out that APLOG does not financially benefit from providing abortions or from preventing abortions. Okay, it's just a 501c3 that tries to get obstetricians together to say, we shouldn't kill babies.
Right.
One, because it's wrong. Two, because it's bad for mother's health. But these other institutions do profit from providing abortions and keeping it legal. I only said that the APLOG cited 47 of the 168 to look at the data to now tell you this. How many of those 168, Alex, did the National Academy of Sciences include in their book called The Safety and Quality of Abortion Care in the United States, which is the primary source in the entire left-wing academia, culture, activist media, universities to make the claim that there is absolutely no negative relationship between abortion and preterm delivery and subsequent pregnancies? 5. They looked at 5 of the 168 that they put in their book. At least the Pro-Life Obstetrician Gynecologist organization looked at 47 of the 168 to try to get a handle on the data. A meta-analysis was put together of 41 of those 168, 41 of the 168, and this is this gives us the best statistical significance of the risk of abortion to preterm delivery in subsequent pregnancies. If you have one elective abortion, your risk of delivering a premature baby, which Alex is 32 to 37 weeks, is increased by 34%. But your risk of delivering extremely premature babies, that's before 32 weeks, is increased by 64%.
Now, this is interesting because, you know, when you're going in for an abortion, I'm sure they're not giving women full informed consent to know, like, now if
That's
you
the
decide
understatement
later,
of the world.
if you decide later that you do want to have a child, you should probably know that if you choose to get an abortion today, this might happen.
You should probably know this.
You should probably know this.
I think there was a phrase that I've heard a lot in the left and in the media. Informed consent. You can't have informed consent unless you're given all the information. That's the whole point. That's how you define informed consent. If you're not given all the information, you didn't actually make an informed decision. You didn't actually give consent. That would be the way to talk about this. These women are actually not consenting fully because they don't have all the information. Now, I don't believe that excuses women, by the way, because I think we need to ban abortion. Okay. But it's also important to point out that women have been lied to. And because the abortion industry understands that they can make a lot of money by lying to women.
And how many women who have had an abortion have actually had multiple?
The majority of women, over 50% of women who have abortions in America, are getting their second one, meaning they've had an abortion in the past.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, so many women who have abortions go on to have others.
Okay, and so what
If
happens
you
when you have multiple?
Multiple abortions, according to this best meta-analysis that's looked at this relationship, your risk of giving birth to a prematurely delivered baby at some point in the future is increased overall by 93%.
That is mic drop. That is mic drop. Nobody knows this.
What about the population attributable risk of abortion on preterm delivery? Remember, that would mean how many women who are giving birth to prematurely born babies have a past abortion as their only risk factor that could have led to a premature birth. From this meta-analysis, 31%. So you've got 31% of babies, Alex, in NICUs who are there with their mothers having had an abortion as the only risk factor or reason that could impact the premature birth of that baby. So you think about the risk for cerebral palsy and for chronic long-term disability that increases significantly with prematurely delivered babies.
That's right.
And all the health costs and taxpayer dollars that are then used to take care of those children, when 31% of them were delivered by mothers who have a past abortion as their only risk factor. Do you think maybe the abortion industry and the follow the science eugenicists at the FDA, CDC, NIH should maybe, I don't know, like tell women that, hey, we love killing babies. We would love to take your money to kill your child, but we just want to tell you that if you, later decide that you're done with having orgasms without responsibility and you're ready for orgasms without responsibility, and maybe you decide to give birth now, you have a 36% increase in preterm delivery between 32 and 37 weeks and a 64% increase of babies delivered before 32 weeks. And if you have multiple abortions, 93% increase overall of giving birth to prematurely born babies, which then will rack up way more of your money that you're going to have to spend caring for negative health outcomes because you killed your baby in the past. This is a biblical concept. The sins of the mothers and fathers will be delivered upon the second and third generation.
Oh.
Now, let me pause and say, don't misunderstand what Seth just said. I'm not saying that God is all about punishing grandkids because grandpa did something bad. That's not what generational sin means. Okay, God doesn't punish the innocent for the crimes of their grandpapa. Generational sin means your actions will have consequences on the second and third generation. That's a biblical concept, and we're seeing that in this debate in evil as well.
I feel like I'm having a conversation with ChatGPT or something. Like this is like, it's such a data dump. I don't even need to talk as much in this interview. I'm just listening and like trying to keep up with what you're saying. I'm gonna have to, this is one of those interviews, Seth, where like I finish and then I have to listen to it 4 times. So I remember what happened.
Totally.
And I was here.
I have guests on my show and I feel the same way. Like I have these studs on my show and I have to go back because I'm like, I forgot what they said.
No, but keep going. It's phenomenal. We're like getting so much information in such a short amount of time. It's amazing.
Well, I want to tell your listeners, Alex, that I had all this data for a long time, but I memorized it all for you last night because I thought Culture Apothecary would be the one show that we would really need to get this out viral to people because, like, I mean, look at you, Alex. You're one of the most well-read, thoughtful, and knowledgeable influencers in the conservative movement about health and the lies that we've been told about health subjects in the country. And you're sitting here going, I've never heard this before. Like, how deeply do these lies run, right? So thanks for letting me share this. So are you ready for abortion and breast cancer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Never heard this either.
Yeah.
Okay.
So of all the pro-lifers' claims about abortion's negative impact on women's health generally, Alex, this is the one that causes the left to start manifesting their inner legion. And since it is October, Alex, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I thought that this was all the more appropriate to really get into the hidden data. Listen, most of what I do with my ministry, the White Rose Resistance, and my film and book, The 1916 Project, is to expose the hidden history of the secular moral revolution. It's not a forgotten history, it's a hidden history. Like that's why it's so important to get into this, because there has been a concentrated effort and agenda to bury and hide and suppress a lot of the information, obviously, that we've been talking about the last 30 minutes, but also about the history of the secular progressive sexual revolution weirdos of the 20th century who really manufactured the insane, stupid, upside down society we're dealing with today. Because I'm convinced now, having done this for over a decade now, Alex, that the left knows that if the more disturbing aspects of their history and legacy and agenda were exposed, most run-of-the-mill, common sense Americans would begin running, voting, praying, and living differently. And so we're just scratching the surface on some of this stuff. But listen, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and my mom died from breast cancer. I watched my mom deteriorate because of breast cancer. Now, she never had abortions, but like it's personal to me. And you see some of these groups, for example, Susan G. Komen, pro-abortion.
Really?
Susan G. Komen gives to Planned Parenthood, Alex. So like what I'm about to get into is going to blow your freaking mind, because we have groups soliciting your, my, and American dollars to race for the cure. Right? Find the cure to breast cancer, when they're freaking giving money and donating money to abortion groups. And because of the abortions that they perform, breast cancer has exploded in America. So they're actually funding the problem that they're then soliciting your dollars to solve for. And the data that you're about to hear, just like abortion and mental health and preterm labor, I'm convinced, Alex, you're going to go, what the? Okay, so just buckle up, everyone. Put it on. Okay. And we're going to send you all the citations on this. You go, fact check me, fact check me, fact check me. Before I give you the data, Alex, this is a helpful point of comparison for your listeners. 2003, the Women's Health Initiative was a study that looked at the increased risk of cancer due to postmenopausal hormone replacement. There was a national panic in this country after that study came out. All they found was that the increased risk of postmenopausal hormone therapy, hormone replacement, resulted in an increase of 8 per 10,000 cases per year. So postmenopausal hormone replacement, 8 per 10,000 women getting cancer per year. Not a huge increase, but this incited a national panic of women who were taking it after menopause. I've talked to OBGYNs who were practicing medicine in 2003, and they're like, oh yeah, oh my gosh.
That was a huge thing.
They were like, that was crazy. I mean, it was wall-to-wall mainstream media news coverage about it, okay? And OBGYNs office phone lines slammed.
Ringing off the hook.
Women after menopause who were taking postmenopausal hormones say, what is going on? Am I going to get cancer now? How did I not know this? I mean, like, oh my gosh, there weren't riots, but there's
national
picketing.
outrage.
There was like, marches. There was freaking out. Okay. Only reason I say that is to say this. What do you think an honest media would do with the data and information I'm about to share about abortion's impact on breast cancer when postmenopausal hormone replacement only resulted in 8 per 10,000 women per year increases in breast cancer? If that incited a national panic, what do you think the data we're about to? What would
I'm dying to know what this number is.
Accountable media do with this information? I'll tell you what an honest, truthful, true journalism kind of media would do with this information. They would incite a national panic, the level of which makes the Women's Health Initiative 2003 study of postmenopausal hormone therapy on breast cancer look like child's play. If we had an honest media that listened to this, fact-checked the information, and decided to cover it, I'm convinced, Alex, we would have pro-abortion feminists outside of abortion centers picketing them, not because they care about the unborn, but because they felt like they were lied to, and now they're freaked out that they're going to get breast cancer because they had 3 abortions while in college.
So what are the numbers?
And they've been hiding this from women forever, okay? So between 1957 and 2018, there were 76 studies internationally in peer-reviewed journals that looked at the relationship between abortion and breast cancer, okay? 76. 60 of the 76 from 57 to 2018 showed a positive relationship between having had an abortion and increasing your risk of getting breast cancer in the future. And more than half of those 60 had a statistical significance that met or exceeded the 95th percentile.
This is going to burn the pro-choice movement to the ground if enough people talk about it.
That's right. And that's like a gold standard, by the way, 95th percentile. So let me say it again, 1957 to 2018, 76 studies, 60 of the 76 positive association. More than half of the 60 had a statistical significance of that relationship that met or exceeded the 95th percentile. How many studies, you know where I'm going, of the 76 did the National Academy of Sciences include in their book, The Safety and Quality of Abortion Care in the United States, when they gave 1.5 pages of treatment to abortion's impact on future breast cancer risks? How many studies did they look at?
Probably
3.
2. Stop!
You almost nailed it.
Stop!
3, Alex. Oh, and all 3 came from the 16, because 76 studies, 60 said yes, from the 16 that said there was no relationship between it. So they always take the minority of the ones that said there isn't.
Fake science.
They put 3 into their one book. And let me just say it again for the 15th time on this show. That book, The Safety and Quality of Abortion Care in the United States by the National Academy of Sciences, is the gold standard, most cited document and authoritative source to justify the claim that the entire culture tells young women that if you have abortions, don't worry. Don't worry. Nothing negative will ever happen to your health in any way, shape, or form in the future. In fact, it's safer than childbirth, right? So we've just set the stage now.
And have you shared this info on any other shows?
No, I thought I'd finally get this all together for you. So
thank you, Seth. Oh my gosh, Seth!
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yep. By the way, Alex, there is a plausible biological and physiological explanation.
Okay, yeah. Are you going to say like, why would an abortion cause breast cancer? Good. This is my next question.
There is a plausible biological and physiological explanation for why allowing a pregnancy to begin to stimulate the breasts, but then stopping it can result in cancer. Having had a child early in life, going full term, delivering baby, and nursing her provides an incredibly high level of protection against breast cancer because those mature ducts and glands are very resistant to becoming cancerous. You guys can go fact check me. Okay, I know I'm not a doctor, but I'm a weird homeschool kid, okay, with intellectual ADHD.
I mean, we trust you.
We've
been listening to you now for however long. We know.
That stuff you can confirm, okay, on Google. They're very resistant to becoming cancerous, okay? Listen to this. 97% of breast cancers occur in immature ducts or glands. 97%. So, Alex, abortion causes the number of immature glands to proliferate. And it causes them to remain in a proliferative state for years, but never mature. And so they become very prone to malignant change. So that's the biological and physiological kind of explanation as to how and why that can happen. Now, the best research on this, okay, now we've looked at that. Now let's get into the real research that the National Academy of Sciences didn't put into their book. It's from Dr. Dalling. She has the best meta-analysis. 845 women in a meta-analysis, all who had breast cancer, and she created 961 age match controls and compared those 845 women with breast cancer to women who didn't have breast cancer. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So let's match these women as closely as we can with the criterias, and then that will help us understand why did these 845 get breast cancer and why did these 845 not get breast cancer, okay? Having had one abortion increases your risk of getting breast cancer by or before the age of 45.
Everything we've ever known about women's health changed like that.
It should. If you have an abortion before the age of 18 or after the age of 29, I don't know why that was, but that was what was in the data set. Your risk of getting breast cancer is increased by 100%. Now, you guys understand how percentages work, right? It doesn't mean you're 100% guaranteed to get breast cancer.
Right.
It's just 100% increase if you get an abortion before 18 or after 29. Here's where it gets really gnarly. If you have an abortion as a teenager and you have a family history of breast cancer, you're basically guaranteed to get breast cancer. 12 of Dr. Dalling's 845 women, 12 of her 845 women had an abortion as a teenager and also had a family history of abortion. All 12 of them had breast cancer by the age of 45.
Why have I never heard anyone in the pro-life movement talk about this data? This is so unbelievably concrete, solid, convincing, earth-shattering, soul-moving. Why have I never heard anyone before this talk about this?
Yeah, and I'll even send you all the citations afterwards to your team. Why? Because most people haven't done the deep dive on it. APLOG has. The American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists, APLOG, they have. They have done the deep dive on a lot of this research and put it together. Unfortunately, most people are not aware of APLOG. They're way more underfunded than they should be. Listen, actually, I'm going to say something. If you're listening to this and you are a doctor, you're family medicine, you're an OBGYN, you need to leave the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, remove your membership from ACOG, and go give your membership to the American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Go to APLOG, leave ACOG. Guess what obstetrician organization refuses to look at, entertain, or platform any of this information or data before American women? ACOG. The American
Doctors that are literally working on women and dealing with all of these issues, they refuse to look at how abortion is contributing.
So
nice.
Planned Parenthood, Susan G. Komen, you baby-killing Moloch worshiper hacks. Why don't you tell American women whose babies you're killing and making billions of dollars off of killing that they might have breast cancer in the future and increase by 50%? Actually, if you have one abortion by the age of 45. Oh, you don't want them to know that because you're not in the business of women's health care. You're in the business of the culture of death and baby killing because nothing is more profitable than that. So you fund the problems that you then say you're here to solve. You hacks, you demon worshipers. We're going to primary every single one of you. Oh, and then there's the abortion pill, which according to Finland socialized medicine data is 4 times more dangerous to women than surgical abortions. And it comes from the Nazis. That's right. RU486 is the name of the abortion pill.
Okay, so let me say something about the amount of women that are having pregnancy, abortion complications, death, all of these things are coming from the abortion pill. Wouldn't the argument from the pro-choice side be, well, this is why we told you that we can't overturn, that everything would become dangerous because people were going to go to desperate measures, and that if we would have just kept abortion legal, then they could have done the regular surgical route and it wouldn't be as dangerous.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's what they say. Yeah, when really abortion pills are 4 times more dangerous for women's health than surgical abortions.
Their argument would be like, yeah, exactly. So many women wouldn't be having to go for the abortion pill.
Yeah, and that's what they've been saying. That's what they're saying with this woman in Georgia, right? Where they're saying, I forget her name right now, but this woman in Georgia last month, remember in September, who died because they didn't perform a DNC quick enough to remove the floating, aborted, incomplete baby pieces from mifepristone. Mifepristone is the first regimen of the abortion pill, and misoprostol is the second regimen. So mifepristone cuts off the hormone progesterone. The nutrients is cut off through the umbilical cord, and the baby starves to death. And then misoprostol forces the uterus to have contractions, and you finish that abortion on your toilet in your home or at your dorm room. So you don't go back to the abortion clinic, right? So 63% of abortions last year, abortion pill, but how many abortions were performed last year? Over 1 million, and those were the ones that were only accounted for. So at least 630,000 babies had their bodies flushed down the toilet in the American sewage system. So literally our sewers run red with the blood of our children, and we wonder why we're under the judgment of God in America.
And by the way, my audience knows that those chemicals, the aborted babies, the abortion pill, that's all going into our drinking water, and we're all drinking it. And all those chemicals, estrogen, all of that, then you're consuming it. And then, we have all of these problems, kids starting puberty early, all of that.
Yep. So that's what's going on right now in the country regarding the abortion pill. And so what they're doing is they're now blaming pro-lifers and pro-life legislative efforts and pro-life movement for killing women, because here's the argument. And this is what they said about this woman in Georgia, who tragically passed away. But my solution is, ready for this? I know it's gonna be super shocking. Like, don't kill your children. And you won't end up in a dangerous situation with your own health. Are you saying, Seth, that we don't have the right to orgasms without responsibility? And that all the lies of the birth control movement? Oh, who coined the term birth control? Who coined that term? Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, coined the term birth control. And she did not mean helping poor Black and brown women plan their parenthood. She meant controlling the births of people I don't want to have children. Eugenics, Darwin, Hitler, birth control, birth controlling.
Why were
That's where that
doctors?
phrase comes
Why were
from.
doctors refusing in Georgia to help this
So
woman?
here's the story. Here's what happened. Oh, see, that's an interesting question. So firstly, the solution is maybe she shouldn't have tried to kill her children, and then she wouldn't have ended up in the situation. But she got a babysitter for her 2 other kids. She was pregnant with twins. She drove from Georgia to North Carolina with a friend. They hit traffic. She didn't make her appointment in time, so she couldn't get it because so many women were coming in with appointments to kill their babies, driving out of state from more pro-life states into North Carolina. She came back home. She took the abortion pill. It led to an incomplete abortion, which happens a lot of the time with the RU486 abortion pill. And then the doctors didn't perform a D&C quickly enough to remove the floating dead baby pieces that was giving her infections.
But did they not do it quick enough because of pro-life laws?
Nope. And that's the lie about the whole thing. I just covered an article on my show, the Seth Gruber Show, at the Atlantic, and it said Dobbs is killing women. Right? Dobbs, it was a court case that overturned Roe v. Wade, and so that makes it go back to the states. And so Georgia had more restrictive laws. Where really, we just need to ban it. You're not allowed. You're not allowed to kill babies. But it had more restrictive, and she was past the point where she could kill her baby in Georgia. And so the argument now is that pro-lifers are killing women. Guys, listen, we've been hearing this for decades. I mean, the arguments even back in the 70s and 80s, and you've probably heard this one already. It's almost identical to what the pro-aborts are saying in Georgia. If you ban abortion, women will be forced into dangerous back alley abortion clinics.
But that's what I'm saying.
And then their health and life will get more endangered.
But
why?
could we say that?
Because of pro-lifers. I have a solution. Don't kill your children. So
of course,
I tell you, pro-choicer, you're a sexist because you assume women are so intrinsically weak of body, spirit, and soul that when faced with difficult life circumstances and the possibility of birthing a child, they just have no other choice than to go to a dangerous back alley abortion clinic to kill their baby. No one's forcing them. No one's forcing them. And if there is a degenerate deadbeat dad who's forcing her teenage daughter, then we should throw him in jail and remove him. But by and large, women choose to get abortions themselves. No one's dragging women into abortion clinics. Well, some pimps and sex traffickers do. But by and large, women who get abortions are choosing to get abortions.
So the argument is you ban abortion, and then if a woman does choose to seek a more dangerous route, which would be the abortion pill, then that fault lies on her entirely.
Oh, yes. Don't kill your baby.
Yes. Not that we should keep some abortion legal so that women don't seek out those other.
So they say there's no such thing as no abortions. There's only safe abortions because women will always get abortions anyways.
Yes.
To which I say that's why you're a sexist, because you assume women are so weak that they just have no other option but to resort to more dangerous abortions for their own health and life. On that argument, I want to get into the philosophy and the ideology behind that argument, if I may, because it's very faulty, it's very stupid, it's very asinine, and it's very upside down. What they're saying is, okay, if you make abortion illegal, women will get them anyways. But now the abortions that they're getting anyways are more dangerous for them. So we should have kept it legal so it would have been safer for them.
Yes.
What they're saying is that because some people die trying to kill others, the state should make it safe and legal for them to do so. Let me give you an example, an analogy. Analogies help. I like thinking analog. Oh, I didn't have coffee this morning. With analogies. Okay, let's say 2 bank robbers are cruising around Phoenix and they're robbing banks, something that is both illegal and immoral. It's illegal, you can't do that, and it's immoral, you shouldn't steal from people. And they've successfully robbed several banks. In the process of running out of a bunch of cash out of a big Phoenix bank, a law-abiding citizen who concealed carries pulls out his Glock 19 and he shoots one of the bank robbers in the calf. The guy falls down and starts bleeding out. His bank robber buddy takes off in the getaway car and leaves his buddy bleeding out. And then the liberals come out and say, Alex Clark, we need to legalize bank robbery because bank robbers are getting killed in the process of breaking the law and stealing from others. So to protect the lives of bank robbers, or how about this one? School shooters. Oh, that's a big thing that's happening right now. Yeah, let's really trigger the left right now, Alex. School shooters who, I like how sharp your brain is. You know where I'm going with this. Who go in to shoot kids in elementary schools because they're depraved demoniacs. And by the way, the solution to that is to get armed security guards with AR-15s outside every school in America. And let's see how many depraved, disgusting child killers would go try to kill kids. So the solution to gun violence is more guns of law-abiding, obedient people who want to protect children at our schools. We're really triggering the left with this episode. By the way, being pro-gun is pro-life because the reason I carry is to protect innocent lives from those who would kill them because I respect the sanctity of life. And when you try to kill someone else, you forfeit your right to life. And I or someone else will shoot you to protect the children. G.K. Chesterton once said, the true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him. Anyway, so these two school shooters, they start shooting up all these schools. And one of them that they go into, there is a teacher who is illegally carrying, but oh well, and he shot one of the school shooters. Oh my gosh, people who try to kill kids are getting killed in the process of trying to kill kids. So then a liberal comes out, Alex, and says, we need to legalize school shootings so the school shooters don't get killed in the process of killing kids. Who would accept the rationale there? So, because some people die trying to kill others, the state should make it safe and legal for them to do so? No, they shouldn't. If you, mother, are getting killed in the process of trying to kill your child, don't try to kill your child. And we shouldn't legalize it to make it easier or safer for you to do so. So the argument that says we have to legalize abortion because if we don't, women will be killed in the process of obtaining dangerous illegal abortions, that argument assumes within the course of its rhetoric that the unborn child is not a full human person like we are. But the left, like they usually do, Alex, never argues for their assumptions. They merely assume them. And C.S. Lewis once said, the most dangerous ideas in a society are not the ones being argued for, they're the ones being assumed.
Yes.
And you know what happens when you assume, right?
What do the pro-life laws across America actually say? Are women being denied anywhere help for miscarriage or ectopic pregnancy?
Oh gosh. Okay, that's so good. Let's go there. Really quickly, newsflash, people who murder children generally aren't disturbed in their conscience by lying. I know that's like really shocking to you, that if you'll justify like dissecting, dismembering, and ripping the limbs off of children, usually like a lie is not that big of a deal to you. The Bible talks about seared consciences. And God has given them over to the depravity of their thinking, Romans 1. So get ready. They've lied to you because people who kill children aren't troubled by lying. And so right after the overturning of Roe versus Wade, right, June 24th, 2022, it goes back to the states. And states can move to ban abortion, criminalize it, or if you're in California, Oregon, Washington, Kansas, unfortunately, not Georgia, Kansas, Michigan, Ohio, they've all moved to codify abortion into their state constitution as a constitutional right, which means all pro-life legislative efforts would be dead on arrival in those states. And so in the heated political climate of July, August, and September of 2022, and the 3 months following the overturning of Roe versus Wade, the abortion industry started lying. What? What was the first 50 minutes of this episode? All the lies that they've told you so they can keep profiting off of killing babies. And by the way, when they can't kill them, they'll incite them to a sexual frenzy and confuse their gender identity because trans drugs for teens is now Planned Parenthood's fastest growing revenue stream. And they're the second largest provider of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones in the land of the free and the home of the brave, according to a leaked memo that I cited in my book, The 1916 Project, from last September of 2023. So they started dumping millions of dollars for campaigns and lies in the states where that fight was happening about whether abortion would become a constitutional right in Ohio, Michigan, Kansas, or whether they would move to protect the preborn. And their lies about how, well, now that these states have a very restrictive pro-life laws, do you know what that means? It means if a woman has a miscarriage, white pro-life Republican men want the child to rot in the uterus. White pro-life conservative men want the child to rot in the uterus. Because to remove the miscarried baby, Alex, the procedure is called a DNC. That's a dilation and curettage. Wait, but a DNC is a surgical abortion procedure. So technically, if your head is so far up your own rectum, it's coming out your face again, you would realize that that's an abortion. And so then a mom who miscarries and the child's already dead, then you can't remove the child. And so pro-lifers want dead fetuses to rot in the mother's uterus, and it will be illegal to remove the child. No, it's not. And then they said the same thing about ectopic pregnancies. That's when the baby implants in the fallopian tube rather than the uterus. And when the baby implants in the fallopian tube, it begins to grow. Baby begins to grow. Left by itself, what happens? The fallopian tube will burst. Mom will bleed out internally, and the baby dies. So if you don't do anything in the case of an ectopic pregnancy, Alex, what happens? You lose 2 lives.
Right.
So it's always better to act to save 1 life than refrain from acting and lose 2 lives. But guess what? The surgical procedural name for removing the baby from the fallopian tube is not even an abortion. It's called a salpingectomy or a salpingostomy. You either remove the entire fallopian tube, but hopefully you can just create an incision in the fallopian tube and remove the fetus. By the way, fetus is the Latin word for offspring or small child. So the next time a pro-choicer tells you it's not a baby, it's a fetus, you guys can say you're right. It is an offspring and it is a small child. A good use of an articulate language there, you leftist. So fetus is a small child. So guess what? That's not an abortion. Because abortion intentionally kills an innocent human being. Removing the child or delivering the child to save mom's life is not an abortion.
And then you're hoping, doing everything you can to save that child's life separately, and tragically, maybe that baby would pass away.
But what's the intent in every abortion?
Exactly, to kill.
And what's the intent in a salpingectomy or a salpingostomy or a DNC for a miscarried baby?
To save
the mother's life.
Yep.
And lastly, on that lie really quick, it was so effective. The abortion industry was so effective in those lies.
Oh, I know it was effective. I'm dealing with women.
I had pro-life people text me.
Yeah.
Seth, quick question for you.
The IVF stuff.
Is it true that in states that have mostly banned abortion, that if my sister had an ectopic pregnancy, that the pro-life laws would force her fallopian tube to burst? No, it's not true. My gosh. Like, dude, think for yourself for a second. And last thing I can do to prove that, before 1973, well, actually, the first states to legalize abortion were in 1970. I think it was Hawaii, Alaska, California, and North Carolina, if I'm remembering correctly. But 1970 was the first states to legalize abortion before Roe v. Wade. In the 60s, when abortion was illegal in basically every state in America, if you had a miscarriage, guess what? And abortion was illegal, you could still remove the baby with a DNC because the child's already dead, because it's not an abortion. And last thing, and this one, you're going to love this one, Alex. In that July of 2022, when that lie was taking off in more conservative states, and they were dumping millions to spread these lies to get otherwise pro-life people to vote for the abortion amendment because they didn't want their mom or sister to not have to have a dead baby removed from their uterus. Planned Parenthood removed a line from their website. But thanks to the Wayback Machine, I have the screenshot, and I covered it at the time on my show, The Seth Gruber Show. There was a line on Planned Parenthood's website before the overturning of Roe versus Wade, and after the overturning of Roe versus Wade, it wasn't there anymore. And guess what that line said? Quote, treatment for ectopic pregnancy is fundamentally different than treatment for abortion.
Oh my gosh. These freaking demons.
It's gone. The line's gone. Because they had to give credence and the appearance of intellectual rigor to the lies that their friends were funding in more conservative states.
Okay, did you see recently this video that went so viral from the opposite side? They had clipped up this debate that Charlie Kirk had done with this group of like college girls or something like that.
I caught some of it, yeah.
And they were, and I mean, they were
from Jubilee.
Yes, from Jubilee, and they were like not afraid. I mean, they had their arguments. And anyway,
yeah, well, most stupid people are pretty courageous.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. So this viral video goes crazy on TikTok and on X of Charlie debating this room full of college girls. The clip, it's one of the most viral clips of Charlie I've ever seen.
I saw
it had to have been like 80 million views, but it was all people saying that it was like him getting owned.
I saw that. Tell me what happened in the exchange.
What happened in the exchange was the girls, of course, their gotcha is, so Charlie, you have a daughter. If your daughter were to become pregnant, you know, as a child or a teen, would you expect her to go through with that pregnancy and carry that child to term? And he said, yes, I would. And they just lost it. And people were just tweeting this like, what a ghoul. I thought it was ironic that they were saying, you know, that was the most ghoulish thing that they'd ever seen, these pro-choice people. So I was wondering, if you saw that clip, do you feel like Charlie answered that question correctly? And are pro-lifers expecting 11-year-old girls to carry babies to term?
So yes. Yes and yes. I think he did a good job. By the way, I actually trained Charlie to say, here's 2 pictures of an unborn baby. One was conceived in rape, one wasn't.
Which one
was conceived in rape? And he's done that very effectively.
Yeah, he did. He said, all of these people in this room, which one was She goes, I can't answer that.
Exactly. Boom. Gotcha.
That was very good.
Yeah. But I'll add a little more to that.
But it was interesting to me that they thought their side had won that debate.
I know.
And then we thought Charlie won.
Yeah, well, G.K. Chesterton, you know, said this about these kind of leftists. They combine a hardening of the heart with a sympathetic softening of the head. And that's basically who we're dealing with. Okay, so hard hearts Soft heads. Okay, that's basically a great explanation for the modern left today. But listen, there was this story that the left was sharing right after the overturning of Roe v. Wade 2. And it was like an 11-year-old. And whether it was true, actually, there were some people saying, is this true or is this a made-up story? But of course, there are horror stories that happen sometimes. I'm not discounting that. Are there circumstances where an 11-year-old gets raped by their uncle or a 12-year-old and gets pregnant? Yeah, that happens. It's not very common, but that happens. But that is not the child's fault. You don't kill Timmy for the crimes of his father. You don't slaughter children for the crimes of their father. Okay, that's wrong, immoral, and evil, and super anti-Christian and anti-biblical. Children should not be punished because daddy did something wrong.
But they're like, okay, but this is a child who didn't ask for that, and now she's got to go through a 9-month pregnancy
And by the way,
and body changes.
if her hips are too narrow and she has danger, like if she could die giving birth, we've already answered that question earlier in the show. If doing nothing, and these circumstances are super rare. Okay, here's a great question, by the way, to ask people who use rape and incest as a justification for legalizing abortion. Ask them, if I give you rape and incest for just a second, will you join me to fight to end the 99% of all other abortions that aren't from cases of rape? Guess what they always say, Alex? No. To which I say, then why are you hiding behind rape victims to make yourself look more compassionate? I have more compassion for victims of sexual assault. Do you know why? Because I support policies to chop that guy's balls off and put him in prison for life. I think public hangings should maybe be made great again.
I do too.
I think if you rape or sodomize children, I think you should be hung from the public square the next morning for the entire community.
I agree. Let's bring back public hangings. Let's bring back public shaming. I want that little wood thing that you put your arms through your head through, and like someone has to sit there all day in the town square and everybody can mock them.
And by the way, for people who freak out right now, Alex, and go like, welcome to Christian nationalism of Alex Clark and Seth Gruber. Like, let me just say really quick, I know God says justice is mine, declares the Lord's vengeance is mine, but that doesn't mean that the state bears the sword in vain. The Apostle Paul says that. He says that the state does not bear the sword in vain, meaning there's a reason why the state bears the sword, to be a punish to evildoers and to encourage the good, to protect the innocent. So that's the role of the state. That's very important. We have to support those kind of things because guess what? Less children will be raped when we have good policies. I support legislation and policies for castrating rapists and for putting them in prison for life. And I'm willing to consider the death penalty. Okay. Does the left support those kinds of policies to be compassionate to the victim of sexual assault and make sure that that dude never touches another child? No, they don't. They always support policies to spring criminals from the clink and get them back out onto the street committing more crimes. Kamala Harris tweeted out a link of a fundraising link for BLM protesters and rioters from 2020 to pay their bail. I mean, come on, guys, this is not like complicated. Like, we support the policies because part of compassion is justice and part of justice is punishment. And part of punishment is a disincentive for other men who see how that guy got punished to not do what he did.
But the visceral image that women voters get hung up on is this idea that even if it is a 1 in a bajillion chance of a child carrying a child, they can't, that is where they're like, I draw the line. I can't expect
but our
a child
value
to
does
carry
not
it.
come from the circumstances of our conception. How about this? If a mother can't kill her rapist who is guilty, why should she be allowed to kill her unborn child who is just as innocent as she is?
So obviously, Seth is like an encyclopedia of knowledge. I mean, I've just never even, I don't even understand how you remember all of this. It's so impressive. But you've got to watch the 1916 Project. And where can people find your podcast, social media, all of that?
Yeah, Seth Gruber Official on Instagram, YouTube channel, Seth Gruber Show, Rumble, because eventually YouTube might digitally assassinate me, and any audio podcast platform. It's just called The Seth Gruber Show. We do 2 episodes a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We got to get you on to talk about birth control and some of the incredible research and factoids and stuff you have as well. And so, growing 40,000 YouTube subscribers, growing, but people are waking up. But the White Rose Resistance is my ministry. We're now the fastest growing pro-life organization in America. And we were launched by and for the church. And so we're doing these screenings around the country, which then leads to launching our resistance chapters around the country. We've launched in Boise, Southern California, Denver, and then we're launching in Florida. We launched in Florida last month in September, and we're launching in Fort Worth this month in October, culminating in a conference the day before the March for Life called Life or Death Con, because we're establishing bold new intellectual thought leadership in the pro-life movement. We're in a season of the last stand because of these ideas and what it's done to the American culture. Those ideas do not stay in a box. They do not stay isolated. They infect everything.
That's right.
And if we don't stand up against it and learn to say no, as the American people and as the church, those ideas will one day come and knock at your front door, and they will end up destroying the liberty and freedoms that you've taken for granted in America, because we stand on the shoulders of giants and we think that we're flying. We forget the cost at which these rights and liberties come. So tickets aren't available yet, but you can go to thelaststand.com. The website's already up, thelaststand.com. And you can put in your email to get the early tickets when they go for sale. And it's going to be one of those culturally formative, shaking events that I think if the church wakes up and we mobilize from this, we could fundamentally transform the culture forever and take back our strategy of discipling the next generation to be salt and light in the culture.
See, normally I ask a guest to wrap the episode, what would be your remedy to heal a sick culture? I feel like you just answered that. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Seth, for coming on Culture Apothecary.
Well, how was that? Did you handle that conversation? I told you it was going to be epic and intense. We love Alex Clark. She's such a great voice in the conservative movement and for the family. Share this episode, will you? That's my only call to action for you today, okay? You can go to thewhiterose.life. You can go to the1916project.com. You can learn more if you'd like. I want you to share this episode on Rumble, on YouTube, on Spotify, on iTunes Podcast. Send this to someone in your life who's pro-choice, marginally pro-choice, pro-life, but doesn't know the truth behind what abortion is doing to women. After that episode, you probably don't even know how to rearrange the puzzle pieces of your own life right now. That you see the depth of the lies and deceit that have happened in our republic. We need to blow the lid off of all of this. Share this right now. Please, as a personal favor to me, your friend Seth Gruber, I'm asking you to share this episode and forward it on to 2 or 3 others, okay? Why don't you pay your pro-choice family member or friend a nice dinner or nice coffee or lunch if they'll listen to it and talk to you about it? That's your call to action today. Thank you guys for joining the Seth Gruber Show. Until next week, I'm Seth Gruber, and this is the Seth Gruber Show.